Chapter 14 of TriPlanetary, first in the Lensman series by Doc Smith. Recording by Phil Chenevert. Chapter 14 The Supership is Launched. After weeks of ceaseless work, during which was lavished upon her every resource of mind and material afforded by 3 planets, the Boise was ready for her maiden flight. As nearly ready, that is, as the thought and labor of man could make her. Rodebush and Cleveland had finished their last rigid inspection of the aircraft, and standing beside the center door of the main airlock, were talking with their chief.
"You say that you think it's safe, and yet you won't take a crew," Samms argued. "In that case, it isn't safe enough for you two either. We need you too badly to permit you to take such chances."
"You've got to let us go, because we are the only ones who are at all familiar with her theory," Rodebush insisted. "I said, and I still say, that I think it is safe. I can't prove it, however, even mathematically, because she's altogether too full of too many new and untried mechanisms, too many extrapolations beyond all existing or possible data. Theoretically, she is sound, but you know that theory can only go so far, and that mathematically negligible factors may become operative at those velocities. We do not need a crew for a short trip. We can take care of any minor mishaps, and if our fundamental theories are wrong, all the crews between here and Jupiter wouldn't do any good. Therefore, we two are going alone." "Well, be very careful anyway. I wish that you could start out slow and take it easy. In a way, so do I. But she wasn't designed to neutralize half of gravity, nor half of the inertia of matter. It's got to be everything or nothing as soon as the neutralizers go on. We could start out on the projectors, of course, instead of on the neutralizers, but that wouldn't prove anything, and would only prolong the agony." "Well, then be as careful as you can." "We'll do that, Chief," Cleveland put in. "We think as much of us as anybody else does, maybe more, and we aren't committing suicide if we can help it. And remember about everybody staying inside when we take off. It's barely possible that we'll take up a lot of room. Goodbye."
"Goodbye, fellows."
The massive insulating doors were shut, the metal side of the mountain opened, and huge squat caterpillar tractors came roaring and clanking into the room. Chains and cables were made fast, and, mighty steel rails groaning under the load, the spaceship upon her rolling ways was dragged out of the hill and far out upon the level floor of the valley, before the tractors cast off and returned to the fortress.
"Everybody is under cover,"
Samms informed Rodebush. The chief was staring intently into his plate, upon which was revealed the control room of the untried supership. He heard Rodebush speak to Cleveland, heard the observer's brief reply, saw the navigator push the switch button, then the communicator plate went blank. Not the ordinary blankness of a cutoff, but a peculiarly disquieting fading out into darkness. And where the great spaceship had rested, there was, for an instant, nothing. Exactly nothing. A vacuum. Vessel, falsework, rollers, trucks, the enormous steel I-beams of the tracks, even the deep-set concrete piers and foundations, and a vast hemisphere of the solid ground, all disappeared utterly and instantaneously. But almost as suddenly as it had been formed, the vacuum was filled by a cyclonic rush of air. There was a detonation as of 100 vicious thunderclaps made one, and through the howling, shrieking blasts of wind there rained down upon valley, plain, and metalled mountain a veritable avalanche of debris, bent, twisted, and broken rails and beams, splintered timbers, masses of concrete, and thousands of cubic yards of soil and rock. For the atomic-powered Rodebush-Cleveland neutralizers were more powerful by far, and had a vastly greater radius of action than the calculations of their designers had shown. And for a moment everything within 100 yards or so of the Boise behaved as though it were an integral part of the vessel. Then, left behind immediately by the supership's almost infinite velocity, all this material had again become subject to all of nature's everyday laws and had crashed back to the ground.
"Could you hold your beam, Randolph?" Sam's voice cut sharply through the daze of stupefaction which held spellbound most of the denizens of the hill. But all were not so held. No conceivable emergency could take the attention of the chief ultra-wave operator from his instruments. "No, sir," Radio Center shot back. "It faded out and I couldn't recover it. I put everything I've got behind a tracer on that beam, but haven't been able to lift a single needle off the pin." "And no wreckage of the vessel itself," Samms went on half audibly. "Either they have succeeded far beyond their wildest hopes, or else, more probably—" He fell silent and switched off the plate. Were his two friends, those intrepid scientists, alive and triumphant, or had they gone to lengthen the list of victims of that man-killing spaceship? Reason told him that they were gone. They must be gone, or else the ultra beams, energies of such unthinkable velocity of propagation that man's most sensitive instruments had never been able even to estimate it, would have held the ship's transmitter in spite of any velocity attainable by matter, under any conceivable conditions. The ship must have been disintegrated as soon as Rodebush released his forces. And yet, had not the physicist dimly foreseen the possibility of such an actual velocity? Or had he? However, individuals could come and go, but the service went on. Samms squared his shoulders unconsciously and slowly, grimly, made his way back to his private office. "Mr. Fairchild would like to have a moment as soon as possible, sir," his secretary informed him even before he sat down. "Senator Morgan has been here all day, you know, and he insists on seeing you personally." "Oh, that kind, eh? All right, I'll see him. Get Fairchild, please. Dick, can you talk, or is he there listening?" "No, he's heckling Saunders at the moment. He's been here long enough. Can you take a minute and throw him out?" "Of course. But why not throw the hooks into him yourself, as usual? He wants to lay down the law to you personally. He's a big shot, you know, and his group is kicking up quite a row, so it might be better to have it come straight from the top. Besides, you've got a unique knack. When you throw a harpoon, the harpoonee doesn't forget it." "All right. He's the uplifter and leveler down. Down with TriPlanetary, up with national sovereignty. We're power-mad dictators, iron heel on the necks of the people, and so on. But what's he like personally? Thick-skinned, of course. Got a brain?" "Rhinoceros. He's got a brain, but it's definitely weaseloid. Bear down, sink it in full length, and then twist it." "Okay, you've got a harpoon, of course?" "3 of 'em." Fairchild, head of TriPlanetary's public relations, grinned with relish. "Boss Jim Town owns him in fee simple. The number of his hot lock box is N469T414. His subist sub-Rosa girlfriend is Phi Chi LeBay. Yes, everything that the name implies. She got a super deluxe fur coat. Martian Teckle, no less, out of that Mackenzie River power deal. Triple play, you might say. Clander to Morgan to LeBay. Nice. Bring him in." "Senator Morgan, Mr. Samms." Fairchild made the introduction, and the two men sized each other up in lightning glances. Samms saw a big man, florid, somewhat inclined toward corpulence, with the surface geniality and the shrewd, calculating eyes of the successful politician. The Senator saw a tall, hard-trained man in his 40s, a lean, keen, smooth-shaven face, a shock of red bronze auburn hair a couple of weeks overdue for a cutting, a pair of gold-flecked, tawny eyes too penetrant for comfort. "I trust, Senator, that Fairchild has taken care of you satisfactorily?" "With 1 or 2 exceptions, yes." Since Samms did not ask what the exceptions could be, Morgan was forced to continue. "I am here, as you know, in my official capacity as chairman of the Pernicious Activities Committee of the North American Senate. It has been observed for years that the published reports of your organization have left much unsaid. It is common knowledge that high-handed outrages have been perpetrated, if not by your men themselves, in such circumstances that your agents could not have been ignorant of them. Therefore, it has been decided to make a first-hand and comprehensive investigation, in which matter your Mr. Fairchild has not been at all cooperative." "Who decided to make this investigation?" "Why, the North American Senate, of course, through its pernicious activities—" "I thought so," Samms interrupted. "Don't you know, Senator, that the Hill is not a part of the North American continent? That the TriPlanetary Service is responsible only to the TriPlanetary Council?" "Quibbling, sir, and outmoded. This, sir, is a democracy." The Senator began to orate. "All that will be changed very shortly, and if you are as smart as you are believed to be, I need only say that you and those of your staff who cooperate—" "You need say nothing at all." Samms' voice cut. "It has not been changed yet. The government of North America rules its continent, as do the other continental governments. The combined continental governments of the 3 planets form the TriPlanetary Council, which is a non-political body, the members of which hold office for life, and which is the supreme authority in any matter, small or large, affecting more than one continental government. The Council has 2 principal operating agencies: the TriPlanetary Patrol, which enforces its decisions, rules, and regulations, and the TriPlanetary Service, which performs such other tasks as the Council directs. We have no interest in the purely internal affairs of North America. Have you any information to the contrary?" "More quibbling!" the Senator thundered. "This is not the first time in history that a ruthless dictatorship has operated in the disguise of a democracy. Sir, I demand full access to your files, so that I can spread before the American Senate the full facts of the various matters which I mentioned to Fairchild, one of which was the affair of the Palarian. In a democracy, sir, facts should not be hidden. The people must and shall be kept completely informed upon any matter which affects their welfare or their political lives." "Is that so? If I should ask, then, for the purpose of keeping the TriPlanetary Council, and through it your constituents, fully informed as to the political situation in North America, you would undoubtedly give me the key to the safe deposit box N469T414? For it is common knowledge, in the Council at least, that there is a certain amount of, shall we say, turbidity in the supposedly pellucid reaches of North American politics." "What? Preposterous!" Morgan made a heroic effort, but could not quite maintain his poise. "Private papers only, sir." "Perhaps. Certain of the councilors believe, however mistakenly, that there are several things of interest there, such as the record of certain transactions involving one James F. Towne, references to and details concerning dealings, not to say deals, with Mackenzie Power, specifically with Mackenzie Power's Mr. Clander, and perhaps a juicy bit or two concerning a person known as LeBay and a Teckle coat. Of interest no end, don't you think, to the dear people of North America?" As Samms drove the harpoon in and twisted it, the big man suffered visibly. Nevertheless, "You refuse to cooperate, eh?" he blustered. "Very well, I will go, and you have not heard the last of me, Samms." "No, probably not. But remember, before you do any more rabble-rousing, that this lockbox thing is merely a sample. We of the Service know a lot of things that we do not mention to anybody, except in self-defense." "I am holding Mr. Fletcher, Mr. Samms. Shall I put him on now?" Norma asked as the completely deflated Morgan went out. "Yes, please. Hello, Sid. Mighty glad to see you. We were scared for a while. How did you make out, and what was it?" "Hi, Chief. Mostly head-ive. Some heroin and quite a bit of Martian ladolian. Lousy job, though. 3 of the gang got away, and took about a quarter of the loot with them. That was what I wanted to talk to you about in such a hurry. Fake meteors. The first I ever saw." Samms straightened up in his chair. Just a second. Norma, put Redmond on here with us. Listen, Harry. Now, Fletcher, did you see that fake meteor yourself? Touch it? Both. In fact, I've still got it. One of the runners, pretending to be a serviceman, flashed it on me. It's really good, too, Chief. Even now, I can't tell it from my own, except that mine is in my pocket. Shall I send it in? By all means. To Dr. H.D. Redmond, Head of Research. Keep on slugging, Sid. Goodbye. Now, Harry, what do you think? It could be one of our own, you know. Could be, but probably isn't. We'll know as soon as we get it in the lab. Chances are, though, that they have caught up with us again. After all, that was to be expected. Anything that science can synthesize, science can analyze, and whatever the morals and ethics of the pirates may be, they have got brains. And you haven't been able to devise anything better? Variations only, which wouldn't take much time to solve. Fundamentally, the present meteor is the best we know. Got anybody you would like to put on it immediately? Of course. One of the new boys will be perfect for the job, I think. Name of Bergenholm. Quite a character. Brilliant, erratic, flashes of sheer genius that he can't explain, even to us. I'll put him on it right away. Thanks a lot. And now, Norma, please keep everybody off my neck that you can. I want to think. And think he did. Keen eyes clouded, staring unseeingly at the papers littering his desk. TriPlanetary needed a symbol. A something which would identify a serviceman anywhere, at any time, under any circumstances, without doubt or question. Something that could not be counterfeited or imitated, to say nothing of being duplicated. Something that no scientist not of TriPlanetary service could possibly imitate. Better yet, something that no one not of TriPlanetary could even wear. Samms grinned fleetingly at that thought. A tall order, calling for a deus ex machina with a vengeance. But, damn it, there ought to be some way to... Excuse me, sir. His secretary's voice, usually so calm and cool, trembled as she broke in on his thinking. Commissioner Kinnison is calling. Something terrible is going on again, out towards Orion. Here he is. And there appeared upon Sam's screen the face of the Commissioner of Public Safety, the Commander-in-Chief of TriPlanetary's every armed force, whether of land or of water, of air or of empty space. "They've come back, Virgil!" the Commissioner rapped out without preliminary or greeting. 4 vessels gone, a freighter and a passenger liner, with her escort of 2 heavy cruisers. All in Sector M, DX about 151. I have ordered all traffic out of space for the duration of the emergency, and since even our warships seem useless, every ship is making for the nearest dock at maximum. How about that new flyer of yours? Got anything that will do us any good? No one beyond the hill's shielding screens knew that the Boise had already been launched. I don't know. We don't even know whether we have a super ship or not. And Samms described briefly the beginning, and very probably the ending, of the trial flight, concluding, "It looks bad, but if there was any possible way of handling her, Rodebush and Cleveland did it. All our traces are negative yet, so nothing definite has..." He broke off as a frantic call came in from the Pittsburgh station for the Commissioner, a call which Samms both heard and saw. "The city is being attacked," came the urgent message. "We need all the reinforcements you can send us." And a picture of the beleaguered city appeared in ghastly detail upon the screens of the observers, a view being recorded from the air. It required only seconds for the Commissioner to order every available man and engine of war to the seat of conflict. Then, having done everything they could do, Kinnison and Samms stared in helpless, fascinated horror into their plates, watching the scenes of carnage and destruction depicted there. The Nevian vessel, the sister ship, the craft which Costigan had seen in mid-space as it hurtled earthward in response to Nerado's summons, hung poised in full visibility high above the metropolis. Scornful of the pitiful weapons wielded by man, she hung there, her sinister beauty of line sharply defined against the cloudless sky. From her shining hull there reached down a tenuous but rigid rod of crimson energy,
a rod which slowly swept hither and thither as the Nevians searched out the richest deposits of the precious metal for which they had come so far. Iron, once solid, now a viscous red liquid, was sluggishly flowing in an ever-thickening stream up that intangible crimson duct and into the capacious storage tanks of the Nevian raider. And wherever that flaming beam went, there went also ruin, destruction, and death. Office buildings, skyscrapers towering majestically in their architectural symmetry and beauty, collapsed into heaps of debris as their steel skeletons were abstracted. Deep into the ground the beam bored, flood, fire, and explosion following in its wake as the mazes of underground piping disappeared. And the humanity of the buildings died, instantaneously and painlessly, never knowing what struck them, as the life-bearing iron of their bodies went to swell the Nevian stream. Pittsburgh's defenses had been feeble indeed. A few antiquated railway rifles had hurled their shells upward in futile defiance, and had been quietly absorbed. The district planes of TriPlanetary, newly armed with iron-driven ultra beams, had assembled hurriedly and had attacked the invader in formation, with but little more success. Under the impact of their beams, the strangers' screens had flared white. Then poised ship and flying squadron had alike been lost to view in a murkily opaque shroud of crimson flame. The cloud had soon dissolved, and from the place where the planes had been there floated or crashed down a litter of non-ferrous wreckage. And now the cone of spaceships from the Buffalo base of TriPlanetary was approaching Pittsburgh, hurling itself toward the Nevian plunderer and toward known, gruesome, and hopeless defeat. "Stop them, Rod!" Samms cried. "It's sheer slaughter. They haven't got a thing. They aren't even equipped yet with the iron drive." "I know it," the Commissioner groaned. "And Admiral Barnes knows it as well as we do, but it can't be helped. Wait a minute. The Washington cone is reporting. They're as close as the other, and they have the new armament. Philadelphia is close behind, and so is New York. Now perhaps we can do something." The Buffalo flotilla slowed and stopped, and in a matter of minutes the detachments from the other bases arrived. The cone was formed, and iron-driven vessels in the van, the old-type craft far in the rear. It bore down upon the Nevian, vomiting from its hollow front a solid cylinder of annihilation. Once more the screens of the Nevian flared into brilliance. Once more the red cloud of destruction was flung abroad. But these vessels were not entirely defenseless. Their iron-driven ultra-generators threw out screens of the Nevians' own formula, screens of prodigious power to which the energies of the amphibians clung and at which they clawed and tore in baffled, wildly coruscant displays of power unthinkable. For minutes the furious conflict raged, while the inconceivable energy being dissipated by those straining screens hurled itself in terribly destructive bolts of lightning upon the city far beneath. No battle of such incredible violence could long endure. TriPlanetary ships were already exerting their utmost power, while the Nevians, contemptuous of Solarian science, had not yet uncovered their full strength. Thus the last desperate effort of mankind was proved futile as the invaders forced their beams deeper and deeper into the overloaded defensive screens of the war vessels, and one by one the supposedly invincible spaceships of humanity dropped in horribly dismembered ruin upon the ruins of what had once been Pittsburgh. End of chapter 14.